genetic hybrid, raised it in captivity. She is seeing all of this for the first time. She does not even know what she is. She will kill everything that moves.
Hybrids are a relatively new concept in the Jurassic franchise since the first film. Well, it isn't new in terms of concepts and I think a few arcade games, but nothing really official like the books or movies. It was more than 2 decades later since the first film that we get to see our very first hybrid. And although many more were created since our downfall, she still remains the most powerful one by a wide margin. A almost 9+ ton literal killing machine that killed everything she came across, not because she needed to, but because she could. We all know that she was killed off due to 1 in a million circumstances and a sprinkle of Rexy's plot armor, but what if we took the Indominus and placed her in a time period with no mosasaurs or mini armies on standby, waiting to put her down? Well, I wanted to see, so I'm going to be placing the Indominus Rex in the very first Jurassic Park film to see just how much the story would change, especially since some people are dinosaurs who won't have any backup to turn the tides. So basically, like every other dinosaur or large theropod I should say, the Indom would have been cloned on Isla Sorna and then transported to Nublar later on as a juvenile. Not like most of the other animals on Sorna at the time, both her and her sibling would have been kept in a relatively small enclosure, so it's almost 100% guaranteed that the Indominus would have still killed her sibling. 2 hyper-intelligent animals in even more close quarters than they were in Jurassic World wouldn't go down too well. Now in Jurassic Park, Wu, as depicted in the film, was not quite as naive as he is in 2015 when he gains a lot more knowledge as he ages. So I assume that more safety protocols would be put into place, but like Rexy, who's on the island and is not fully grown during this time because she's around 7 or a bit more tons now, she would have been fed goats or possibly just a cow with a crane like she was previously. The only somewhat plus I would say is that since it may be electric fencing, she could see more of the outside world and the paddock may be a bit bigger, but for the most part she's still very alone. And with her intelligence she would break internally like she did in Jurassic World. Like when you have the intelligence to outsmart or even manipulate other animals, you think about more than just eating and reproducing like all the other non-hybrid dinosaurs, and with her having a clear view of the outside world now, or at least part of it, she would be more eager to try and escape. But luckily for her, there's a character from My 500-Pound Life in the park who will soon let you loose while killing many in the process. All that for a couple $100,000. Actually, back then that could have been well over $1 million in today's money. But regardless, like all of the other animals, she would soon break out to Nublar and start to explore. Most of the other events remain the same for the most part. Rexy breaks out and Grant and the kids get away during the first half, but then what? Well, now that both of these megaceropods are on the loose at the same time, they would meet up much sooner. I'm not saying the Indominus would just go up looking for Rexy, but the roars and broadcasting Rexy does throughout the park will definitely pique the hybrid's interest, and when the Indom does track down Rexy moments after Grant and the kids escape, a fight would go down. Now there are some pros and cons to 1993 Rexy. She's younger, more agile, and a lot more fast. Disadvantages? Well, she's weaker in almost every stat physically, including bite force at this time. Both of these animals would be similar in age and both filled with pride, thinking they're the biggest and baddest thing alive. The hybrid more so, and we know Rexy would never back down, even though the hybrid is now at least a ton bigger now because of her growth rate. I don't think I have to explain that Rexy's getting put down. There's no blue or water lizard to come to the rescue. If Rexy at a larger and more experienced form got put down to the floor, then a significantly younger and smaller one is getting torn apart by the hybrid, even if they were at parity. At worst, the hybrid would collect some heavy bites to the neck or miss a few shots at first due to Rexy's agility, but that's where her arms come into play to eventually hold the Rex in place. With Rexy now immobilized, things are about to get much worse for everything on the island, aside for perhaps one particular group, but that'll be shown later on. So after Malcolm's injury, with Muldoon and Ellie just waiting outside the car, there won't be any big footsteps to alert anyone to hurry up and get inside. The Indominus likely already ripped out her chip and took down any recovery teams that came after her like she did in the movie, but the park is a lot less developed more than 20 years ago, so there's only a certain amount of roads and tracks that could be used, something the hybrid would keenly take note of and take full advantage of. And with her camouflage, she will likely ambush the group in the car while everyone's still outside of the vehicle, aside from poor Malcolm. She'll reveal herself and then just kill everyone before they can get inside the vehicle, or at least push off to a significant distance. And just like that, 2 of the most significant or iconic characters in the entire trilogy are killed off at the same time. What are they? During her trek, she will likely come across a Brachiosaurus herd. Now this is where things start to get interesting. It is common knowledge that most of the herbivores in Jurassic World, well at the time of the park's release, are docile and very tolerant of people. The Brachis in Jurassic Park are tolerant too, but these things are decently bigger than the Apatosaurs, and if they are anything like the ones in Sorna, if they decide to retaliate, it isn't looking good even for the hybrid. I think the hybrid might be a bit puzzled on this towering creature, but will eventually attack it due to her aggressive nature. In a life or death situation where the sauropod realizes it can't escape, it will try to retaliate, and a kick to the hybrid's body will do some decent damage, but even if she manages to take down one Brachy, I highly doubt she's gonna have the energy or power to take down the entire herd in a single go, even with her endurance. And this would be even less likely if these ones actually decide to band together. Grant, upon seeing this absolute monstrosity that probably killed one Brachy, would definitely stay in the tree a little longer with Lex and Tim. I'm sure he would have gained some knowledge on it, but it's unlikely Wu or possibly even Muldoon would want to fully show him the hybrid just yet. But he'd at least know that standing isn't going to get him out of anything like the T-Rex. So they'd wait some time before traveling out into the open, which seems counterproductive, but it's better to see it coming than risk traveling across the edge of the forest where it could ambush you. I know you've all been waiting for me to bring in the Raptors, but it's unlikely she would have any contact with them just yet, seeing that there are more around the buildings locked onto the few humans left. Also, it could be debated on whether or not Grant and the kids will survive long enough to reach the Rex skeleton, but let's say they manage to somehow do that. Well, if we place the Indominus in Rexy's place, then something might be a bit different. By the way, I never got how Rexy just popped in like that, but hey, it's a fictional movie, so I won't try to understand. One or two things will happen. The Indominus will try to communicate with the two Raptors, at which they will listen to her or tell her to, go f*** herself. The second option is a real thing, believe it or not. Blue and the other Raptors always viewed Owen as some sort of authority and have been accustomed to receiving orders to an extent, nor did any of them want to kill each other to assert dominance. The big one, on the other hand, listens to no one and killed a lot of her packmates to ensure that they stay in their place while she keeps her position. With this rebellious attitude, there would be some questions as to if she would actually listen to the hybrid. If she doesn't, then Grant and the remaining crew would get off the island while the two groups fight it out, because if they don't listen, then the hybrid will just kill them, which should give the humans enough time to escape. But if she does get through to the Raptors and they decide to follow her, then she will simply tell them to kill off all the cast, and just like that, all the legends in the entire saga would have been killed. Then Hammond would likely soon follow, even with an explorer once the three animals get outside. This wouldn't be the end though, as in 1994 there was a mass cleanup of Jurassic Park to assess the damages and get rid of any unwanted dinosaurs. The Indominus would eventually get picked up, so it will result in a lot more casualties. It will eventually happen though. I was gonna say that with so many important figures dead because of the park, there would be no chance that any other recreation could be made in the future due to legal reasons, but Inchin in possible collaboration with Biosin could cover up all of this, and knowing Wu, he would want to just stop his research there, especially with how successful in quotation marks he was at creating a hybrid of this magnitude. The Indominus would likely get put in a paddock later on like Rexy was in Jurassic World. Also now she'll be at her full size at 50 feet and 10 tons, possibly even more. In light of this, Wu would again try to create another hybrid, and without Hoskins' influence, it'd be something more similar to the Indominus, but possibly not quite as big. Maybe around the size of an Acrocanthosaurus, and a larger paddock and more refining could possibly make this one more stable. Or he could go the other route and create the Indominus 2.0 like Goji Center, without the plague spreading capabilities of course, and then this one would eventually get out and history would repeat itself. That's the plot of almost every film. Something always escapes, always. Also with how much more advanced the new Indominus is, Owen likely isn't getting off scot-free just because he poured some car fluid on himself. That reminds me, I'm thinking of making a video counting all the times Owen should have been killed, like some instances where he should have just been dropped without any question. Not even plot armor should have saved him. But let me know in the comments. Again, want to thank everyone who's been supporting the channel. Without your support and gods, I probably wouldn't have even made so many videos or made videos with so much variety. Like I said, I'll do a Q&A before the end of this month, maybe next week. But you can join the Discord in the description to keep up with anything channel related and even just take part in events. But anyway, that's all for now folks. I'll see you tomorrow.